and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Anna, and it's officially 2026. What a crazy year 2025 was for me. And, for me, 2026 is starting off really busy. I am blessed with so many things happening in my life, and the reason why I didn't post for the last 2 weeks, I didn't post for the last 2 weeks, is because I just don't really have as much time as before, because 2025, it was just me, writing my thesis. I had time to film all of these videos, but now I am currently working full-time, and it's not going to be for the entirety of the year. This contract only lasts for, I think it's going to be a month maximum, just 1 month, because I am replacing someone else and that person is coming back. So it's not going to be for long, this full-time job. But as you know, I have a law degree and I really wanted to become a judge. So this year I have also, bought one, I don't know how to say it in English, but there's just, my university offers like one course of 3 months for a very expensive fee, by the way. Okay, I'm not going to comment on that, but a very, just specific course of 3 months of intensive preparation for me to do the exams, to be accepted, to go on to the school of judges, let's just say it like that, because obviously you have to do the exams to be admitted to the school. So that is what I'm focusing on in 2026, and I had so much luck because I actually signed up for the course on the last day, 1 hour before, they allowed people to get in. And I don't know what crossed my mind to go and check the website, but thank God I did. So I'm also doing that while working full time. And it's just been a little bit hard to, juggle everything, because I have to record the classes, although it is not allowed, but I really have to because I am working. So I can't watch them in the system. And because I paid such an expensive fee, I really want to take advantage of everything. So it's been very hard to conciliate everything, but I do have some time to film. And this video, I'll be talking about my top 5 favorite books of 2025. And when it comes to reading in 2025, it wasn't that great. When I look back, I read 35 books, which is a good amount. I did, my 30 annual goal. So I did hit that, but I didn't have a great reading year in terms of quality. A lot of the books were not 5 stars. A lot of the books were barely 4 stars. So I really want to change that in 2026. And one of my goals, and I will do a video, focus on that, is just to read more of what I like. But definitely, I did have some highlights in 2025. For example, A Song of Ice and Fire, that was a new obsession for me. I absolutely loved it. So without further ado, here are my top 5 favorite books of 2025. And in 5th place, we have Frankenstein by Junji Ito. This was the year of Frankenstein for me, because I also read the classic. I also watched the movie by Guillermo del Toro. So I was just surrounded by Frankenstein everywhere. And I have such, a fond memory of reading this particular manga book, because I read this on the 31st of October. So Halloween day, I read this, at nighttime. It was 2, 3 a.m. while I was reading this. I turned on my red lights to give, that horror, creepy ambiance. And I absolutely loved it. And I actually enjoyed Junji Ito's adaptation of Frankenstein, because he, I think I can give a little bit of spoilers, but I'm just warning you, okay? I'm going to talk about spoilers, so if you want to skip, please skip. And I really enjoyed the idea that, for example, in Mary Shelley, Dr. Victor Frankenstein, he never creates another creature for the creature, because the creature wants some company. The creature is tired of being alone. So he asks Victor Frankenstein to build him a new creature so they can, a wife. So they can just be together forever, love each other, and just live, out in the wilderness. And here in Junji Ito, he actually creates another one. So it's really funny, because Junji Ito was like, what if Victor Frankenstein created another creature? And the way that the story unfolds is really, it's funny, but at the same time, it's just really sad for the creature, because things are not going to go according to the creature's plan. The creature imagined one thing, that they would be in love and together forever, but the other creature, the female one, let's just say that she is not going to be so thrilled about that. So I really enjoyed the adaptation and, just the vision that Junji Ito had for Frankenstein. And besides that, we have so many other short stories that they connect with each other, with other universes. So Junji Ito really picks up on the idea that we have different universes at different dimensions. And in each universe, there's a version of ourselves that is doing something completely different, that is living a completely different life. And I just really liked how Junji Ito, explored that theme, and how also Junji Ito picks up on the silly things in life, the most mundane things, and turns them into just a horror spectacle. So, for example, we have one of the kids here. He wants to be tall because he's actually quite short for a guy, and he's always mocked by it, and he always, he just doesn't feel as manly. So you do have some horror elements intertwined with that thought of him just wanting to be taller. So some weird things are going to happen, and I just absolutely loved this particular manga by Junji Ito. So if you have not read it, please read it. I gave it a 4 stars. So it wasn't perfect because there were some stories where I was just like, okay, this is just fine. It's not really giving me anything. But there were other stories, including Frankenstein, that were just amazing. And then in 4th place, we have, of course, we needed to have a Brandon Sanderson book on our top 5 favorites of the year, which is Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. This is a very, very short novella. I gave it a 4.5 stars because I just loved everything about it. But my favorite element was definitely the character, Silence. I just love her name. I love everything that she stands for. I love how she just found a way to survive, and she has found a way to create, this sort of legend around herself, because in this world, they live in, a very secluded forest. But in this forest, spirits roam, and if spirits find you, they will harm you. You have to be very, very careful walking around these woods, because if you bleed or if you cause a fire, the spirits are going to go in disarray and they will attack the first person that started the whole violence. So these forests are very, very dangerous, and there is, a rumor that it's called, I think it's the White Fox. I'm not completely sure, I forgot, but there is a rumor that there is just a mysterious person that everyone thinks is a man that is killing a lot of the criminals to get their rewards, and, they just live life like this. And of course, that person is Silence, and I just love how she does it. I love that she does everything. Even though she is a woman, she doesn't have that physical strength. She's not good at fighting at all, but she just finds a way to kill these criminals and get their rewards in such a clever way. She is very, very clever, and I love that about her. I love clever women, because not every woman needs to be a badass and know how to fight with swords and be strong and be this and be that. No, a woman can be clever and strategic and calculating and manipulating, and that's what Silence is. But she's not a bad person. She is collecting these rewards because that's the only way that she has to survive in the forest, because she owns an inn at the forest, and her inn is very, very famous for the fact that it is very secure, because she has, a line of salt surrounding the inn. She also has a lot of silver, because the spirits do not like silver or salt. So it's a very famous inn for being a very safe place for travelers to just stay in the night and just stay there before they go out and journey again into the forest. But of course, not everything, that's just not enough to pay bills. She has a daughter to raise, and that's why she collects all of these rewards. And just the way that she is, she can seem very cruel and very cold, even towards her daughter, but she does that because she loves her daughter, and she wants her daughter to understand that if you want to live and you want to survive in this forest, you need to be like this. You have to have this calculating mind. You need to think before you act. You need to be cold towards persons. Don't really get too close. Don't get too attached, because you don't know what might happen. Those people might betray you. It is a cruel world indeed, and that's why I like her character. I can understand why some people wouldn't really like her, that they might think, oh my gosh, she's so cold towards her daughter. She doesn't really love her daughter, but she does. She loves her daughter more than anyone in that world. She does anything and everything, and she will do everything and anything to protect her daughter from harm. So I just absolutely love this short novella, and I really want Sanderson to continue or do something with this character, because I need more from Silence. And in 3rd place, we have Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke, and I absolutely devoured this book. And of course, it is only 52 pages. It is very, very thin. So I did read this in an hour and 15 minutes, I think. And I just absolutely love this. And even now, sometimes I go to, one of my post-its, one of my annotations, I don't know if you can tell, to just read a few passages, because if you ever have, any doubt about life, just please read this book. This book is going to give you not the answers on how to live life, but Rilke is just basically telling you, you don't know any of the answers because you haven't experienced it yet. In order for you to understand life, you have to live it. And if you don't live the experiences, then it's normal that you don't know what is going to happen, or you don't know how to act in a certain situation, because life does not come with a manual, people. And sometimes that is very hard for us to grasp or even think about, because we just want to know everything, and we don't like the unknown, and we don't like having so many questions. But it's just like Rilke says, live the questions for now. The answers will come. You just have to live life, unfortunately. That's just how life is. And yes, you're going to have a lot of doubts if you're doing the right thing, the wrong thing. Are you walking, the correct path in life? Are you doing what you love? But those answers will come. And look at the doubts as, just push them aside. Push them aside, or just try and use the doubts in your favor. Try and think them as critical thinking, and try and use them in your favor. Don't try and use them or don't allow the doubts to deter you from your path. And there are just so many answers here and so many advice here that just, it leaves me with a smile on my face. I just absolutely love this book, and I give it, of course, 5 stars, because it's just incredible. This book eases my anxiety like no other book ever. It truly feels like a warm hug on a hard day. It really, really does, because I know I've said this before, but please read this book, because like I said, it's just amazing, and you have to understand that life is supposed to be lived, okay? It's supposed to be lived. You're going to live through a lot of things. You're going to experience a lot of things, and only then are you going to understand what life is. And so if you are having a hard time, if you need a warm hug, then please read this book, because I promise you this will hold your hand and guide you through life, and will always just be, just that warm reassurance. So please read this book. And of course, for number 2, we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I absolutely love this book, and this is a masterpiece. And it's just so funny, because whenever I read a classic and I end up loving it so much, it shouldn't be surprising. Like, it literally should not be surprising, because it is a classic for a reason, okay? Like, I didn't, find a new favorite. No, this is a classic, and it has been a favorite of many, many people for a reason. And of course, you all know the story of Frankenstein, but what I absolutely loved about this book, it was just the writing. Mary Shelley definitely knows how to write. She knows how to use words, and she has a way with words that really just touched my heart. I understand that some people don't really like her writing. They think it's too, floral. It's a little bit too complicated, but I didn't find it complicated at all. I found it, quite accessible. Of course, you do have a few words here and there that you don't really understand, but that is going to happen with any classic, I think, in my opinion. So I don't think Frankenstein is very hard to read. Now, some people might not like, the monologues and the themes, and how the author or our character Victor Frankenstein goes on and on and on about, just this, his internal monologues. I understand that a lot of people might not like that, but I absolutely loved Frankenstein. I loved all of the monologues, and I love the themes that Mary Shelley explores in this book. As you all know, she explores, the themes of friendship, isolation, loneliness, what it is to love, what it is to be alone, and that's why the creature is the way that it is. The creature, he, or it's, I don't know really, but he is not really a good person. He's not a good person, but we also have to understand that the creature was born. Victor Frankenstein, he stitched all of the creature's parts, and the creature was born, and it was just a baby. He needed to learn everything about the world, and he learned by himself. And he learned in the most awful way possible that he wasn't accepted by anyone because of how he looked. He looked like a monster, like a weird creature. He was freakish, and people didn't really like him. So he understood the language of violence very early on his life. So it is completely normal that the creature is violent as well. It is. And honestly, I do think the creature behaved a lot, better than I was anticipating, because in the beginning of his life, in the first few months, he actually was very peaceful. He just wanted, he was just living in the woods, spying. I know spying is a little bit bad, but he was just spying on family, learning how to speak, learning how to talk, learning and trying to understand humans, because he just really wanted to have a friend. That's all he wanted. He wanted to have a friend, and the fact that he was forsaken by his own creator, Victor Frankenstein, just made him feel horrible. And so I honestly commend him for lasting all of those months and being a good person, because that's what he was. And then, of course, he forsaken humanity, and he started committing all of these crimes. But like I said, he learned the language of violence very early on because of how people looked at him, how people treated him. And I just love that analysis that Mary Shelley did, but also Victor Frankenstein's past, how he had such an amazing childhood. He had everything that he ever wanted. He was spoiled. And he just decided to do this. Like, he literally just decided to play God. And then when he saw what he created, he was just like, yeah, no, I hate this. I've forsaken this. I do not want this in my life. And then he just starts blaming everything else but himself. At the end, he does accept accountability. And he does say, yes, this was my fault. And I am sorry for creating you. I'm sorry for giving you this life. But throughout, the tale, he really does not want any accountability at all. He's just always blaming everyone else. It was my demons. It was my demons. My demons made me do this. It was God. God tempted me with knowledge and wanting to go above and beyond. No. Okay, it was you. It was you, Victor. And it was actually very frustrating to read about his past, because, like I said, it was just amazing. His past was amazing. He was going to marry a beautiful woman, and he just did all of this, and then he starts blaming it on everyone else and everything else. Yeah, no, thank you. But of course, Mary Shelley really wanted to, portray the monster as being a monster, becoming a monster, and of course, human being the monster, which was Victor Frankenstein, because he looked human, but he was a monster inside. He had, he didn't blink when leaving the creature alone. He didn't care, he didn't blink, he just wanted to move on with his life. And of course, he did feel guilty throughout the book about, the creature's doings. He always thought, oh my god, like, this is my fault because I created it. But he never told anyone, and he never tried to do anything to stop the creature or to make the creature's life more comfortable, because when you create life, you are responsible for that life. Obviously, this is such a masterpiece, and I highly recommend you read it, because also it is very, very short. I don't think this version has 200 pages, so you can obviously read this. And I did read this in October, so the vibes were immaculate, but I absolutely loved this book. And for number 1, we have the best book that I've read in my entire life, and you should not be surprised for it to be A Storm of Swords by George R. R. Martin. I finally have the whole collection of A Song of Ice and Fire. My boyfriend gifted it to me this Christmas, and honestly, this book, I can't really talk too much about it because it is the 3rd book in the series, and I know a lot of people have watched the show, but I don't want to give spoilers, okay? I don't want to give spoilers because the books are different from the show, and I just loved it. Okay, I loved this so much. I don't think I'm ever going to read a book this good. Like, I really, really don't think so, because this had everything that I like in fantasy and more. And this was just everything in the series that I loved, in A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, but it was just so much more. Like, George R. R. Martin really outdid himself with this book, and I don't think even Winds of Winter is going to be better than this. Like, nothing can be better than this. This is how good it is. And in this book, the only thing I'm going to say is we do have one of the most iconic scenes in the, Game of Thrones saga, which is the Red Wedding. Exactly. But it doesn't happen the same way in the show, okay? It is different here, but I just loved everything about this book, because all of the stakes were so much higher. After the events of Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, everyone, there was just war on all fronts. All of the Starks were at war. Everyone in Winterfell and everyone, in the North rallying with Robb Stark and going to war against the Lannisters. The Lannisters also trying to survive the Starks, and just everything was just amazing. And the reason why I also love this book is because this book had one of my favorite characters. It has Catelyn Stark, which I absolutely love. It has Robb Stark as well. And as you all know, A Feast for Crows and A Dance for Dragons, they do not show up. For, let's just say, technical difficulties, okay? Because they are not going to show up more. And I think that's why I love this book so much, because I was just following them. And although we don't have a POV from Robb, which is one of the saddest things, I really wanted Robb Stark to have a POV. I still enjoyed following Catelyn and her being with her son and giving advice to her son on the war, and him doing something so damn stupid. I don't know how Robb Stark did something so stupid that caused the Red Wedding, I don't want to say he caused it, because obviously the Lannisters also planned the Red Wedding. They obviously manipulated the people that performed the Red Wedding, but Robb Stark also had, a doing, let's just say, in the Red Wedding, and I just loved every single character in this book. I think it had such a good balance between Lannisters and Starks, because, like you all know, A Feast for Crows had a lot of Lannisters, and I do not like them. Okay, I do not like the Lannisters. I just like Tyrion, so following all of the Lannisters was pretty hard, but in this book, we do have a balance with all of the characters. We have Jon Snow, of course. We also do have Tyrion Lannister. We have Brienne for the first time as well, because Brienne, she in this book is going to be, I think this is where she's going to try and find Sansa Stark and trying to rescue her. And also, this is the book where Joffrey dies. Finally, Jesus Lord, Joffrey's death is also in this book, and of course, we all know that Tyrion is framed, and the whole thing that Tyrion does at the end of, before he is executed, because of course, he is deemed guilty, and even though Jaime Lannister helped him escape, which he does, and that's how he escapes, Tyrion doesn't escape without leaving his mark, and I absolutely love that, okay? So this book was just everything to me, and I absolutely love this with all of my heart. This is an infinite stars. I don't, of course I give it 5 stars, but this to me is a 6 out of 5, 7 out of 5, 8, 9, 10, whatever you want to say. It's just infinite stars, because I loved everything about this book, and it is a chonker, okay? It is a chonker, and I cannot wait to reread this sometime soon. I don't know when, but this was absolutely gorgeous. And these were my top 5 favorite books of 2025. Please let me know down in the comments below what your favorite books were from 2025. And I really hope that 2026, gives me a little bit more books, because like I said, I didn't really have a lot of 5 stars or 4 stars. And as you can tell by this pile, fantasy was kind of a letdown for me this year, not this year, 2025. It was kind of a letdown for me. I don't know what happened. We only have one fantasy book in this pile. We do have sci-fi, which is Frankenstein, but still, it was just a little bit sad to see that fantasy doesn't really or didn't have an impact in 2025. And that's why in 2026, I really want to read books that I just want to read, books that I think are going to be 5 stars, because I need to be in love with fantasy again. I need to be in love with reading, and I just want to read whatever the heck I want to. So I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it does help my channel out a lot, and it gives me a lot of motivation and validation to continue filming these videos for you guys. And I will see you on my next video. Bye!